Welcome to Stab the Dragon Productions and Texas Rye Whiskey Studies for episode number 4 of our National Rye Whiskey Tournament, which is really now an international rye tournament. Today is July 29th, 2025, and it's 98 degrees here in Fort Worth, Texas. We have one of my favorite ryes from the past today, coming from Windsor, Ontario, or does it? Directly south from Detroit, Michigan, across the Detroit River, we've got Canadian Club 100% rye. Now, last time we had our one-on-one matchup between Basil Hayden Dark Rye and Alberta Premium. Both of these are 80 proof rye whiskeys, and the Basil Hayden won that competition for sure, even though the Basil Hayden includes Alberta Premium in its rye. So there is a relationship here between all three of these whiskeys. Definitely. Just the facts. Canadian Club 100% Rye is a non-age stated single grain Canadian whiskey. 100% rye, coming from the distillery on the Detroit River. Detroit Distillery. There you go. Owned by Suntory Global Spirits, or does it come from somewhere else? So it too is going to be a cousin of Basil Hayden and Alberta Premium because they're owned by Suntory. This whiskey cost me $21.99, but is only in one of the 3 big box stores that I shop at here in Fort Worth. So its availability is just a little bit low. Tasting notes. Well, when I tasted this whiskey, the butternut or butterscotch and caramel kind of came through at the first. Very sweet. Now, it is spicy, but I don't get the normal rye spice notes. I get hints of leather or tobacco kind of towards the back end. And so really this is kind of like an ice cream topper for a sundae or a banana split. Just a very delightful sweet rye. It's one of the more sweet ryes that I've got. So that's what I get on the tasting notes. My score for this whiskey was 84. My letter grade for drinkability, solid A. My recommendation. I knew going in that this whiskey is one of the whiskeys the pros don't like, but that I love. And so I highly recommend this rye. It's easy to drink, it's delicious, it makes for a great old-fashioned, and its price value really are very, very good. The resemblance to other Canadian whiskeys in general is noted, and Canadian whiskeys are incredibly popular with the masses of Americans, including me, but are issued by the pros, the whiskey snobs. Oh well. My score was a bit low at 84, but my letter grade was high at an A. And this is because I score a whiskey on several technical things, but taste goes into the letter grade. The drinkability of this whiskey really is wonderful. Now let's get into the details. History. Hiram Walker was born in 1816 in Massachusetts and moved to Detroit in 1838, where he worked as a grocer. Now, if you watched my other videos on blended Scotch, you know that grocers in Scotland started the modern whiskey business in the 19th century, and now here we have an American doing the same thing. As a grocer, he began distilling his own vinegar, which then led to distilling whiskey. He was also a grain merchant and distributing grain to various flour mills, and he decided to build his own flour mill. He purchased property across the Detroit River in Windsor, Ontario, along the railroad and the river, so 2 means of communication there, and he built a steam-powered flour mill and a distillery, which began making whiskey in 1858. Now, the reason he moved his operation from Detroit to Canada is that the Detroit city government was experimenting with prohibition already by the 1850s, and so they were making it difficult for him to distill liquor. So he moved. Walker founded a model city for his employees at the mill and distillery, calling it Walkerville. Walker's whiskey became very popular all the way across Canada, and it spread into America, where he cleverly marketed it to exclusive clubs, hotels, and bars as a 5-year-old barrel-aged premium whiskey. And this is how it acquired the name club whiskey. The whiskey became so popular that American bourbon distillers complained to Congress, which then passed a bill that required foreign whiskey imported into the country from Canada to label their whiskey with country of origin. And Hiram Walker gladly complied, stamping his barrels with Canadian club whiskey. And that name has stuck. With Walker's death in 1899, the distillery passed to his sons, and with the passing of the 18th Amendment and the beginning of Prohibition in January of 1920, Canadian Club engaged in a large amount of shenanigans, smuggling or bootlegging, with Al Capone being one of their best customers. Through the years, Canadian Club has received not one or two, not three, but 5 royal warrants by 5 of England's kings and queens, starting with Queen Victoria and going through to Elizabeth II. And they are the only distiller in North America to receive a royal warrant. Go figure. And you can see the insignia there on the label. In 1952, all the lights in Times Square, New York City, were turned off so that the Canadian Club neon sign could be lit up and displayed, and it stayed there for 21 years. In the 1961 James Bond movie Dr. No, Agent 007 drank Canadian Club, so they say. Today, Canadian Club is owned by Suntory Global Spirits, and this rye whiskey is distilled in Calgary, Alberta by Alberta Premium. There you go. So they're brothers, whiskey brothers. All right, for history, 5 points out of 5. Bottle, label, and marketing. Now, my first bottle of this whiskey several years ago was a flask style. And now this bottle is here, and it's just kind of plain Jane, bland, regular bottle. I guess I prefer the flask to this one. This one's just a little bit boring. Now, I like the label. The label is nice, and it has changed some recently. The addition of, I don't know if you can read it, single grain Canadian whiskey down there. See that? And so that kind of links it to the Scotch whiskey world a little bit. And that's selling some of its single grain whiskeys in the U.S. And again, the date of 1858 is on the bottle, and it's on this label around the neck, established in 1858. So they're proud of that date. But this brand itself was not introduced until 1882. The label has that royal warrant on it, and the bottle's got some embossing, Canadian Club Whiskey, 1858, down here at the bottom. I don't know if you can read that or not. So I like the green label. It's kind of an unofficial way of signifying rye whiskey in the industry. And I have never seen an advertisement for this on its own, but I did a deliberate search on YouTube, and I found 4 short little commercials for it that were reasonably well done. And they were all much older, 10, 15 years ago, even 20, I think. The theme seemed to be that this whiskey as a single grain is like a Scotch single malt. It's the Canadian single malt, so to speak. They were short but effective commercials, well done. So 4 out of 5 points for bottle, label, and marketing. Composition. One of my questions about this whiskey was where it is actually distilled, and so I assumed it was the this distillery with all the others, but in Windsor. But when I went to the website, it cleared it up. I'd seen a couple of people mention that they thought this was from Alberta. And the website actually comes right out and says Alberta. So there you go. And then knowing that Suntory owns the Alberta Premium Distillery, you put two and two together, and there you go. In fact, the website says, quote, "It was created in the heart of Alberta's unforgiving rye country by a team who spent the last 60 years mastering the art of distilling with rye." So again, it's owned by Suntory along with Alberta Premium. There you go. There's no age statement here, but the law says 3 years minimum. One reviewer I read stated they thought it to be a 4-year-old. And it clearly does not taste young to me. It tastes older. A heavy wood presence in this whiskey. A lot of Texas whiskeys will tell you what kind of rye or which type of corn or barley is used. But here they just say Alberta rye. So there you go. But there's enough doubt in some of the points here to where it's only going to get 12 out of 15 points for composition. Appearance. All right, well, let's pour a glass and look at this both in the bottle and in the glass. So holding these up here, that is a nice copper color medium. So that's a solid 3 in my book. Doesn't look pale. So again, that means it's got a little bit of age to it. Now let's nose this whiskey. Caramel, butterscotch, very pleasant nose. And I've got a lousy nose for the smelling of whiskeys, but this one comes across very nice. A little bit of earthiness. So that is a pleasant nose. 8 points out of 10. Time to taste. I get some caramel and butterscotch, like the nose, but I get some earthiness, some wood, spicy, but I don't get normal rye spice notes. It's a different kind of spice, like baking spices, I guess. But here's the thing that really makes me love this whiskey. And the reviewers that I watched online did not bring this up at all, so it's maybe just my palate. I get leather and tobacco. And anytime I get leather and tobacco in a whiskey, it automatically, that's right in my zone. Okay, so I automatically love it. And so that's one of the dominant notes here. Some of my favorite Texas whiskeys have got that leather and tobacco note. Balcones, Tabacaro. This is a lot like some kind of an ice cream topper for an ice cream sundae or a banana split, because it's still very sweet. And you get that butterscotch and caramel up front, but then that wood hits and you get the leather tobacco. So really, this is really quite good. This is one of my favorites. So 22 out of 25 points for taste. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish. At only 80 proof and no age statement, the mouthfeel is not thin. I'm going to give it a medium. And again, when I watched some other videos, they were talking about how thin it was. I don't get thin here. I get medium. And the flavors stick around in my mouth for a while, as is the tingling. Okay, so there's not a strong burn. It doesn't go up in my sinuses, doesn't go in the back of my throat or down the chest. But a nice tingle that lingers for a long time, letting you know you've been drinking whiskey. And again, other reviewers said there's no finish, that it just disappears. And I'm getting a long finish. I mean, those butterscotch notes linger, the wood notes, the leather, tobacco notes. I mean, that's hanging around for a little while. So the spiciness lingering. So I don't know what those other guys are drinking, but for me, this is really quite good. So mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 13 out of 15 points. Now, neat or mixer. Neat, this is absolutely one of my favorites for sure. But at 80 proof, I'm not going to put this on the rocks, I don't think. I just rarely put whiskey on the rocks. It's got to be like cask strength before I'll do that. If I want a chilled whiskey, I put the glass in the freezer. Yesterday, I made an old-fashioned, a Canadian old-fashioned. I used maple syrup as the sweetener, and some bitters and some orange bitters and an orange peel and some Luxardo cherries. And it was magnificent, and my wife liked it. Okay, my wife's not a whiskey girl, but she drank this old-fashioned and really liked it. And she has never had just an old-fashioned for herself. We usually split one. But she thought she might actually like a whole one. So this absolutely worked in the old-fashioned. But on the website, I saw, hey, try a ginger ale and Canadian Club. So let me go try that real quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I used some Canada Dry ginger ale and a lime cut in half and one shot of Canadian Club rye. So let's see what we've got going on here. And that is marvelous and refreshing. The lime, I was a bit worried about. I don't think I've ever put a lime in with ginger ale before, but that 100% works. So, neat or mixer? There you go. Your preference. I've only, in the last 3 years, started drinking cocktails. For years, I only did neat. But I'll always start off neat. And this is marvelous neat. But the two cocktails I've now made with this are outstanding. So 5 out of 5 points for neat or mixer. Price, value, and availability. Total Wine in Fort Worth did not have it. Specs Liquor also did not have it. Goody Goody is the only place that had it at $21.99. So a 7 out of 10 because availability is so low. But the price and value is fantastic. So, that's amazing. If you can find it, I recommend it. Bonus points. Definitely 5 bonus points for Canadian Club Rye. Because, like I said, going into this review, this has been one of my favorites for a long time. Total score is an 84. Letter grade for drinkability, solid A. Special guest. Oh, I've got a special guest. There you go. Canadian Club 1858 whiskey. Because these are brothers, I wanted to compare and contrast to see how these are. Now, this is glass number 2, and this is glass number 1. So, see, I love Canadian Club whiskey. Now, the 1858 is not my favorite. The 12 year is my favorite. But still, man, this just has a marvelous nose. Again, the caramel, the butterscotch, the wood notes, leather tobacco, hints of maple. I can readily see how these two whiskeys are related. The rye is a bit more lively, a bit more spicy. I think it's got a little bit better mouthfeel. But these two are clearly brothers. Okay, I mean, there's a direct relationship there. So, and again, Canadian, I'm just a Canadian Club fan. What can I say? All right. Analysis and recommendation. This 100% rye is so much better than the bottle of Alberta Premium, its cousin or brother, as the case may be. And again, some of the guys I watch online really didn't care for this at all. The tasting notes they got are very different from what I got, which goes to show you that individual palates, tastes, and preferences make a huge difference. But again, I knew going in that this whiskey is one that the professionals would not like, but that I loved. There you go. So I highly recommend this rye. Cost effective, high value, maybe a bit difficult to find. This is an easy, delicious sipper. Makes a great old fashioned, and now a great ginger and Canadian Club. Its resemblance to other Canadian whiskeys in general is noted, but especially to that 1858 by Canadian Club. So I highly recommend this. My score looks like it's a bit low, but my letter grade is high. And so, you know, I grade these whiskeys on several technical things, but taste goes into that letter grade, and drinkability of this whiskey is wonderful. All right, next on this channel, we're going to be looking at Jim Beam Rye. White label, 80 proof. That will be the next one to analyze, to study. Then we'll do a head-to-head competition between these two. All right, so these two are cousins, and we'll see if there's a relationship there and see which one I like the best. Well, that does it for Texas Rye Whiskey Studies and Stab the Dragon Productions. Out here.